A post of Caitlin Clark. Let's click on this post and read this post, right? So this post was from a photographer, right, that was at the game. Now, he caught many people, right? He got who on here? But look at how he did Caitlin Clark. You see how he put the extra little sizzle? He put the extra little sizzle on Caitlin Clark. Now, Caitlin Clark had to go through all of these photos, right, just to get to her one.
That's where the bigger picture comes into focus. Because this isn't just about one qualifying game or one fourth quarter, it's about identity, direction, and decision-making at the highest level. Caitlin Clark isn't a role player. She's not a situational piece you bring in for specific matchups. She's not someone you ask to adjust her game to fit into a rigid structure and accept reduced impact. She is the structure. She's the type of player you build around, not work around. And every minute spent trying to force her into a lesser role is a minute where the team is operating below its full potential. International basketball is evolving. The gap between Team USA and the rest of the world is shrinking. Teams are more organized, more disciplined, and more connected than ever before. Talent still matters, but it's no longer enough on its own. What separates teams now is clarity. Knowing who initiates the offense. Knowing how possessions are supposed to flow. Knowing exactly where each player fits within the system. Right now, Team USA is at a crossroads. They can fully build the offense around Clark, give her the ball, trust her vision, and allow the veterans to adapt around that framework. Or they can continue trying to balance everything, rotating roles, splitting responsibilities, and hoping that flexibility somehow turns into consistency. But that middle ground? That's not a strategy. That's indecision. And as the competition gets tougher, indecision becomes a liability. That Instagram post, quiet as it was, captured all of that. It wasn't just about reminding people of one performance. It was about setting the tone for what comes next. About making sure that when future decisions are made about rotations, roles, and roster construction, this moment isn't forgotten. Because in the end, the message is simple. Let her play her game. Or risk realizing too late what you had all along.
Has been having on the sport of women's basketball. And to me, as of right now, the young lady is killing it in all sports. She's the trending topic. She's hotter than everybody. And to add more assault to injury, her stats is 20 times better than everybody's. Y'all do understand that, right? Like, y'all understand Caitlin Clark was coming off the bench, bro. She's been coming off the bench, and she's been tearing through Team USA lineup, coming off the bench. Not only is she doing it so well coming off the bench.
7 hours after Team USA wrapped up their qualifying game against New Zealand, Caitlin Clark did something completely out of character, something subtle on the surface, but incredibly loud if you understood what you were looking at. She didn't call a press conference. She didn't give an interview. She didn't even type a single word. Instead, she opened Instagram and made a statement without using a caption, without context, and without explanation. It was just one image. But not just any image. The photo wasn't even hers originally. It was buried deep, 6 images down, in a photographer's carousel post from the game. To get to it, she had to scroll past 6 separate shots of other players. 6 moments highlighting teammates, 6 captured highlights that told the story of the game from everyone else's perspective. And then, at the end, there it was, her moment. A perfectly framed action shot. Mid-play. Eyes locked in. That signature intensity, the kind that defines her entire style of play. And she reposted that one. No caption. No emojis. No great team win. No acknowledgement of anyone else in the post. Just the image. That wasn't random. That wasn't accidental. That was intentional in a way that only someone fully aware of the narrative around them could execute. Because this wasn't just about sharing a photo, it was about control. About choosing which moment to amplify, which version of the story to highlight, and which message to send without saying anything at all. And the message was clear to anyone paying attention. This was directed at everyone who left her off the Olympic roster. Everyone who questioned whether she belonged at that level. Everyone who has consistently placed her in roles that don't fully utilize what she does best. Everyone who has debated whether she should be starting, whether she should be running the offense, whether she truly fits into the traditional structure of Team USA basketball. Clark didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She didn't engage in any of the noise. She simply showed the moment. The look in her eyes in that photo wasn't passive. It wasn't someone blending into the system. It was someone locked in, fully engaged, fully capable of taking control. And by choosing that specific image, by scrolling past 6 others to find it, she made sure everyone else saw it too. No words needed.
And then in the fourth quarter, Caitlin assumed the point guard responsibilities, and she was subbed in at about the 7-minute mark in the fourth quarter as the point guard. And
now, if you all watched the game, we know in that fourth quarter, there was a shift in game flow, right? The shift was because exactly what CC Report just said. He stated they put Caitlin Clark back at point. Prior to that, she was not playing point guard at all. Hence why, in that fourth quarter, Team USA exploded on New Zealand, bro. Listen to him. He dropping jewels right now.
Instantly, completely, the game tone changed. She instantly kept finding Kiki Iriafen over and over and over again with bullet passes right under the rim, the easiest layups that Iriafen.
From a pure basketball strategy perspective, this entire situation becomes even more fascinating the deeper you analyze it. Because USA Basketball has access to everything. Every possession, every stat, every piece of film from Indiana Fever games throughout the season. They've seen how Caitlin Clark operates at her best. They know that early in the WNBA season, Indiana struggled when they tried to play her off the ball to accommodate more experienced players. They've watched how that experiment limited both her effectiveness and the team's overall offensive flow. And they've also seen what happened when that approach changed, when the offense was built around her strengths, when she was given full control as the primary ball handler, when the system adapted to her rather than the other way around. The results were undeniable. She led the league in assists. The offensive rating improved significantly. The spacing opened up because of her shooting range, forcing defenses to extend well beyond the three-point line. That, in turn, created driving lanes, passing angles, and scoring opportunities for everyone else. All of that data exists. And yet, for 3 quarters against New Zealand, it was essentially ignored. Instead, the approach leaned toward conventional wisdom. Veteran leadership. Traditional roles. Established hierarchies. The idea that experience should dictate structure rather than current effectiveness. But the fourth quarter changed everything. Because it wasn't just an adjustment, it was an admission. An acknowledgement that maybe the most effective way to run this offense is also the most obvious one: put the ball in Clark's hands and let her do what she does best. Looking ahead to the 2026 World Cup, this becomes a critical decision point. Because the competition will be far more demanding. Teams like Australia, Spain, and Canada bring not just talent, but structure, chemistry, and clarity in roles. They know exactly who they are. And if Team USA doesn't figure that out, talent alone won't be enough.
Of a lot of Caitlin passes, suddenly her assist total doubled. She ended up with 6 assists for the game, and her point total also went up. Did Caitlin's went from 7 points all the way up to 14 points. She ended up being the second leading scorer for the game. So this to me is just, how many times can you underline it? It is not a smart idea for you to play Caitlin Clark off the ball exclusively or for any long period of time. I understand there may be some possessions here and there where Caitlin needs to be played off the ball, but every time that you take the ball up the court with the ball not in Caitlin's hands, you are cutting her value more than in half, because Caitlin's magic galaxy brain point guard court vision.
Now go back to that Instagram post, but this time with full context in mind. Because once you understand what happened during the game, the meaning behind it becomes even clearer. Caitlin Clark didn't just randomly repost a photo. She made a deliberate choice. She scrolled past 6 images of her teammates, 6 moments where others were highlighted, celebrated, and documented as part of the game's visual story. Those photos captured the contributions, the highlights, the energy of everyone else on the court. And then she found hers. One image. One moment. Buried at the end. And she reposted only that. No caption saying "great team effort." No acknowledgement of the final score. No mention of stats, teammates, or anything else that would typically accompany a post like that. Just the image. Just her in motion. That's not ego. That's precision. That's someone who understands exactly what they're doing and exactly how it will be perceived. It's a quiet, controlled way of making a very loud statement. Because what that post effectively says is simple: I know what I bring. You know what I bring. And more importantly, we all just saw what happens when I'm allowed to bring it. There's no confrontation in that message. No negativity. No direct criticism. But it's impossible to ignore. It reframes the conversation without starting an argument. It shifts the focus without creating controversy. It reminds everyone, fans, coaches, analysts, of a truth that just played out on the court. And it does it in the most Caitlin Clark way possible, through performance first and acknowledgement second.
In her hands. So this is what we've seen time and time again. Obviously, we saw this with the Fever not only last year, but also her rookie year. But now we're seeing it again manifest in Team USA. It doesn't matter who the point guard is if it's not Caitlin. If it's Chelsea Gray, if it's Paige Beckers, if it's Kelsey Plum, they just don't have the same type of point guard vision that Caitlin has. And as a result, even though Caitlin is on,
they don't have the ball knowledge to go with the floor of the game and run the court and see the court the way Caitlin does. That's why in that fourth quarter, we seen a dramatic change.
The only way that she gets to use her point guard vision is if she has the ball in her hands. The only way she gets the ball in her hands when she's not the primary ball handler is if somebody passes it to her with the intention of her scoring. And so we're more than cutting her value in half every time that we're doing that. And hopefully, as coaches continue to...
Now let's break down what actually happened in that New Zealand game, because the numbers tell a story that USA basketball might not be too eager to highlight. On paper, it looks like a dominant performance. But when you dig into the details, especially how Caitlin Clark was used, a very different narrative starts to emerge. Through the first 3 quarters, Clark was playing almost entirely off the ball. The offense was being initiated primarily by Chelsea Gray, who handled the point guard responsibilities. That meant Clark, arguably the most dynamic playmaker on the floor, was often positioned on the wing or in the corner, waiting for catch-and-shoot opportunities instead of orchestrating the offense. By the end of the third quarter, her stat line reflected that limited role: 7 points, 3 assists. Not bad, but far from impactful. Not the kind of production you associate with a player who led the league in both scoring and assists during the WNBA season. Meanwhile, other players were thriving in their roles. Kelsey Plum got off to a strong start offensively. Paige Beckers found her rhythm and got consistent touches. Angel Reese made her presence felt early, grabbing attention with her energy and rebounding. Reinhard caught fire from beyond the arc, knocking down shots at a high rate. And Clark? She was watching. Waiting. Adjusting to a role that didn't fully reflect her strengths. For a player known for controlling tempo, creating opportunities, and breaking defenses down with both her passing and shooting range, being reduced to a spot-up shooter changes everything. It limits not just her production, but the entire team's offensive ceiling. Because when Clark doesn't have the ball, the defense doesn't have to react the same way. They don't have to extend as far. They don't have to rotate as aggressively. They don't have to account for the kind of playmaking pressure that she brings when she's initiating. And then came the fourth quarter. That's when everything flipped. The ball went into her hands. The offense shifted. The pace changed. The structure loosened in a way that allowed creativity to take over. And suddenly, the version of Clark that everyone expected to see from the beginning finally showed up.